right in front of me so often. Many of you might experience the sensation, it happens to me a lot, and it might happen to you. You know, you're driving home, and your mind is busy mind. And then you get home and you don't know how you got there. And you think, do I stop at the lights? Do I hit a pedestrian? In Delhi, a bit different story again. But anyhow, it's just something for me to amuse myself with. So we're not aware. So awareness is really about turning off that autopilot and bringing presence. But then we go one step further. What mindfulness really is reducing our bias and judgment and perception. All day long, we look at everything. I like it, it is good. I don't like it, it's not good. Or meh, neutral, don't care. We do this all the time about everything, really, whether it's food, clothing, people, reactions. I like, I don't care. So mindfulness and that awareness is actually just reducing all those judgments and just seeing things as they are without those rose-tinted glasses or coloured glasses and lenses that we see the world through from our past, because we are a product of our past, product of our culture, of our family, of everything that we've learnt. So we drop all those preconceptions, see things neutrally, in a kind of natural way, not the way that we think that they are, because so often those biases really make us misinterpret our world, misinterpret situations because of our bias and our history. It's just unfortunate, we're human. Mindfulness also has the incredible attribute, which is my personal favourite, is all about deliberate attention. If I walk into a dark room and I cannot see anything, but I have a torch on my phone, I cannot see anything, but if I turn on the torch, I can shine the beam anywhere in the room, and what I put it on, it will be illuminated and I can see it. The rest of the room is still dark, but I can choose to move the beam of light around and see whatever I choose to direct it to. So I can move, if I'm in my living room, I can see the settee or the TV or table, whatever. I can choose that. Mindfulness is exactly the same thing. We choose to direct that beam of light to attention. Now, once again, so often we're daydreaming, we haven't got attention, or in fact, we don't stay and concentrate on something because our mind wants to wander. It wants to go somewhere else. It wants to look at that shiny thing over there, or that texts or social media or our emails. We don't want to stay focused. So mindfulness is that whole aspect of I will choose my attention, I will choose where it is, I'll be conscious of where it is. Where is my attention? Direct it and then hold it there. Sounds simple, but if you remember yesterday morning and trying to stay on your breath, it's pretty hard. So how productive are you at work when your attention is constantly wandering everywhere? So mindfulness helps us to focus. The last one is the hardest one of them all, and this is why my Mindful Agile came. Open. We talk about openness and transparency in Agile, don't we? But how about in our own minds? How open are we to whatever unfolds in front of us without, I want it to be this way, I planned it to be this way? How open are we when things aren't that way? How accepting are we when things aren't exactly how we imagined? And so often that causes us a lot of trouble. I wanted it this way and it's not, now I'm angry. I wanted it that way and it isn't, I've lost something, now I'm sad. I wanted it some way and it causes these emotions. So openness is really accepting of what's there without that expectations, so we lower them. So we're open to really whatever happens, good, bad or indifferent. We really just remain a bit more natural and neutral about these things, dropping all that. So there's many different aspects, and this is just a very brief one for the sake of just giving some context of what we mean by mindfulness. So mindfulness has two aspects to it. how do we practice mindfulness? The first practice, I think, is the hardest, personally. It is the informal t-shirt version, the informal mindfulness, which is just understanding our breath, our breathing, coming to the present, becoming aware, forgetting all that inner talk, dropping all those inner concepts and thoughts and saying, what's going on? So it takes that kind of curiosity of what's going on in there. I quite often use it that, we're so busy with our days that barely check in with what's going on in my head. How am I seeing this now? What are the sensations going on within me? Even Bevan was talking a lot about how we sense our emotions. How does that feel? So mindfulness is that a connection to that, to sort of say, what's going on inside of me? Checking in with the brain, checking in with the body. What am I feeling here? Where is it coming from? And then being curious about that. How has this started? Why has this started? So clearing our mind, focusing, and bring our attention over and over again, and break that zombie sleep, walking state that we're so often in. And unfortunately, the mind, and I know a lot about science, and I'm not going to make this a big scientific talk. Science is hard. I'll leave that to the experts. But when we talk about how the brain works, everything comes in through the base structure of the mind, and unfortunately that has no logical thought. It's all that primitive brain, fight, flight, freeze. So everything can be triggered, that sensation, and that can make it so instead of us choosing wisely how we want to respond to a situation, we react almost like, a knee-jerk reaction, like a reflex. And we're born that way because that's the way our mind is wired. So mindfulness actually picks up when we've got that trigger, and instead of just being an automatic reaction, we can pause. What's going on there? Let's choose a more wise way to respond now. Let's slow down that automatic pilot. Let's slow down that knee-jerk reaction and choose exactly what is the wiser way to respond rather than react. And there's a very big difference between responding and reacting. So we're getting rid of that reactive brain and choosing a more wise, responsive brain. So that's an everyday, all day, 24 hours, 365 days, every second of every day kind of practice. Super hard. So to do that, we have to do some training. Just like we go to the gym, we want to build up big muscles and get slim and all those things that I'm not. So to be more mindful in the informal way, we need to go to the gym. So our mind needs to go and do some formal practice, some formal workout, like my bodybuilder with the weights there. Meditation enables our mind. It strengthens our mind to be able to pick up and be more aware in the real world when we're not sitting on our cushion or our chair or wherever it is. Because when we go and do meditation, it's not to be good meditators whatsoever. A lot of people think, I'm a terrible meditator, I can't be mindful. It's hard. I've been doing it 20 years and I'm kind of getting the hang of it now. It's a tough thing to sit there and force your mind to say, no, you are not going to go and jump around like a monkey from tree to branch on all the different exciting things that we can think about or look at or talk about. It's really about mind. You are now I'm going to control you. You're not going to control me. We're going to put your focus on the object and you're going to stay there. Just like that torch. We're going to shine it in one place and then we're going to hold it there. And when, and not when, if, not an if, it's definitely when your mind wanders, it's noticing that it's wandered. It's noticing, I'm thinking, I'm contemplating, something's distracted me, I've heard a noise and now I've jumped off my focus. It's noticing and saying, distracted. Okay, mind, come back. So when we talk about meditation, it's not about getting rid of thoughts. It's not about some wonderful la-la dreamland. It's incredible concentrated focus. Like when we go to the gym and you're lifting those heavy weights, which is not pleasant or comfortable, it is a little bit unpleasant and a little bit uncomfortable. And many people find when they're meditating that they say, my mind is just too busy. it's not unique to you. Everybody's mind is just too busy. Just when you sit down and meditate, it's probably the first time you've noticed how incredibly busy your mind is. So it is natural that you figure out and say, oh, too much, my mind is crazy, maybe I am a little bit insane. Well, you're just noticing it, it's okay, it's fine. The trick with meditation is not about, as I said, removing thoughts and emotions, but recognising when your mind isn't on point, when you've drifted off, and then bringing it back over and over again. Sometimes though the problem is that your mind wanders and it chooses to keep wandering, and you might wander for minutes before you realise, oh, my mind's wandered. So it's really about catching it wandering. So it's this kind of, we talk about metadata, it's a metacognition, awareness of where your awareness is. It's a weird kind of circular reference. So we're really cultivating that ability to say, hang on mind, where are you? Let's bring it back. Awareness of awareness itself, that metacognition. Before I move on, I'm very open to some questions if anybody's got any before we might give a quick, and I mean quick because it is a short session and I forgot to look at my clock so I don't know where I am. Where's my timer to? Yep, how long, Penny? It's good. Any quick questions before we move on? Yep.
Meditating when we start meditation, the mind goes into a sleeping mode.
Oh, yes. So it shouldn't do. The question was, we're meditating and my mind wants to go to sleep. Well, you're tired. Not the time to meditate, perhaps. So we think of meditation, it is incredible focus and concentration. It should be the opposite. It's not about sleepiness and it's not about agitation. It's really about calming the mind, keeping it on focus and remaining focused. Not about, oh, I focus on something, oh, it's so relaxing, I can go to sleep now. No, it's really, all right, mind, you're staying focused. Really, it's almost like a hyper-awareness. So it's the opposite of sleepiness, but if you do fall asleep, you're tired, it's okay. Meditate when you're less sleepy. Some people find it's easier in the morning for that reason. I myself, it's almost the first thing I do when I get up, because I find it easier, and then I'll try to, in the afternoon, try a little bit, but in the evening, I find it incredibly too hard because I am too tired. Go ahead.
Isn't it contradictory that we have to clear our mind, but at the same time we have to be mindful to focus? Because at times we are thinking, no, now we should focus on. So it itself brings a thought in our mind.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing to talk about. It's not about getting rid of thoughts. It's not about clearing our mind and just having this kind of open space of nothingness, empty. I don't know how many people are familiar with the concept of emptiness. You can do that if you choose to, if you follow those traditions and that kind of dharma, that's fine. But when I talk about mindfulness, it's really about bringing your mind and, like glue, attaching it to a focus point and then keeping it there. So it's not about getting rid of thoughts, it's about training the mind to stay and concentrate and focus. So while you are focusing on your breath, for example, you are bringing full awareness into your breath. So in a way, you're kind of thinking about your breath and your breath only, so you're forcing your mind to stay on that topic rather than, oh, I can hear a bell, I'm going to think about a bell. It's I reject letting my mind go to that thought, I'm going to keep it on this thought. So keep that focus rather than killing and being empty of thought. Yep.
One more question, how to keep focus when we are talking? Not to divert to 10 different things, but not while meditating, but while speaking.
Absolutely. How many of you are coaches? Yeah, so another talk I talk about is specifically for coaches, because you're sitting there and you're at a stand-up or So listening is the most important mindfulness lesson for you coaches or leaders out there. This is not a specific talk about that, but it is, as a leader, that's probably the most important thing that you can give someone. We call it presence. You're present with someone because it is a gift. It's the most generous act you can give another person, is to be present for them. And that means when you're listening, your mind isn't wandering. So just like I've got my formal gym practice, meditation, that enables me when I come out of meditation that my mind is more able to be focused when I'm not meditating. So when I am listening, my inner chatter, you know that inner voice? You know that inner voice? I can hear them all. No, I can't. But we all have that voice that tells us horrible things, and that prevents us listening. So when we are mindful outside of meditation, it's reducing that inner voice and saying, no, be quiet, we're listening. My mind is now going to stay on the object of who I'm listening to. So it's a mindfulness practice in a weird kind of way. So the meditation enables your mind to be stronger, so when we are listening, we're less inclined to wander and think about other things instead of focusing on the wonderful person we're trying to talk or listening to. So it builds that muscle, that mind muscle up. So there's a correlation between them. Of course, meditation is difficult, but then it's in the real world where it's come in. Already 10 minutes, oh my goodness. All right, we'll skip the mindfulness because I want to move on to some stuff. So I won't do a meditation. I'll see if we get some time at the end, just because I know we came here to talk about mindfulness in Agile teams. So I want to show you or discuss my take on why it's such an important thing in an Agile team. I don't think I need to say anything about this one. There's a difference between being Agile and doing Agile, right? What's the difference? Yeah?
So being Agile is being mindful about what you're doing and doing just
So we talk about the mindset. Yes, exactly right. So Agile is a mindset of trust, transparency, openness, collaboration, safe to fail, all of those things. It's actually an attitude. It's not a doing stand-ups and having Jira and Scrum boards, no. So we know it's based on the 4 values and the 12 principles of the manifesto, which also help shape that mindset. And then we enact it with the Being Agile, which are thousands and millions of different practices. So there's a big difference between the two of us, and as a coach I spend more time on mindset than I do on the practices. I don't know about you guys. So to do that, we need to think about how do we apply mindfulness ourselves as not just the coaches, it's all about teams. So we know about our 4 values. So I'm just going to start there as a bit of an overview. So the first value is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So when we think about being mindful in the sense that we are more aware of what's going on, we're choosing our responses more wisely rather than going into that auto reaction, knee-jerk reaction mode, we help build our relationships with our team members. Because instead of us looking after ourselves and me, which most of the time that's what our inner voice is talking about, we can say, hang on a minute, let's come to this open, remember the openness, we can be present with somebody else and remove our own perspectives. And of course, communication, collaboration, of course, listening, because communication is not one-way traffic, it's the listening part. So we can communicate more ably because we're actually listening rather than getting ready to talk ourselves, which so often we are. We're thinking, I'm listening, but I want to talk back to you, I want to say something back. So it's removing all that so we can actually collaborate better as well, because I'm going to talk about collaboration a bit more in a minute. There's clear benefits from mindfulness, including increased resilience. When we think about Agile teams, we have to be safe to fail, because sometimes a sprint might end, we learn things, and maybe what we've produced isn't so wonderful. So we have to be able to bounce back even though we've been incorrect or failed. So mindfulness has got a clear benefit there. I'm going to keep moving a little bit fast, but there's a lot there. And there's a clear correlation between emotional intelligence and mindfulness. When we think about emotional intelligence, the great work of Daniel Goleman, he talks about the 4 aspects. And nearly all of them rely on some amount of awareness, self-awareness, other awareness, and then using that awareness to then direct behaviour. So if without that awareness, it's the foundation of EQ. Working software over comprehensive documentations, well, it's focus. Mindfulness enables us to focus on what is or what isn't working in terms of quality and what is truly valuable. It also gives us that mental clarity. We're not bogged down with all those perceptions and conceptions and bias and habit of mind. We can see things in a new and different way, which leads to innovation, of course. And it also provides that sense of meaning at work. that we can focus on what's really valuable in terms of working software. Collaboration is absolutely one of my, I spend a lot of time with product owners on this one. So product owners have a big job to represent many different diverse groups. So we need deep empathy, not just from product owners, but from the dev team to think, who's really using this work? Deep empathy, being able to swap my point of view for theirs, to really walk a mile in their shoes and see the world from theirs. That means we have to drop our own perceptions, be aware, and direct our thoughts as if it was that. And that takes a lot of mindfulness to say, oh, if I wanted it, how many times have you heard a dev meeting? If it was me, I'd want it this way. It's like, it's not for you, dude, it's for the client. So mindfulness enables us to detect, am I being open or am I being, clouding at myself? And responding to change. Unfortunately, the research is in and it tells us that 99% of all stress, all worry and all anger is because something's changed and we didn't want it to. And we know changes are definite. So mindfulness helps us say, oh well, it's changed, I can now drop it and move on. Instead of it going around, how many sit there and mumble, just drop it. Mindfulness says, am I repeating that thought? Am I repeating this issue? Am I repeating this stress over and over and adding to my stress and adding to my anger? Because it does come from within. Now, this is a really brief talk that I could go on. That's probably a big one that I'm fascinated by, because we are creating our own experiences by allowing ourselves to ruminate and replay these stressful or unhappy, changeful events that we didn't want. And then, of course, building our own emotions up from that base. So quickly, what's collaboration mean? Collaboration. Pardon?
Listening and sharing.
Listening and sharing, definitely.
Co-creation.
Co-creation. Is this another one I've killed? Looks like I've killed another mic. I'll have to tell him when I get home. A friend called Mike. No, I don't know what's going on. Is it recharging? I'll try again. So collaboration is a lot of working together. When I ask this to my teams, they always say, oh, we're working together, we're listening, we're sharing, we're using our skills effectively, we're being productive, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, great, but it's all about a shared and common goal. We are in this boat together, and unfortunately our minds like to look after our own selves first. So we have to drop our own way and say, hang on, is it my way or the highway, or am I really collaborating with my team? So mindfulness enables us to detect, am I thinking me or am I thinking team? And that takes that metacognition. What am I doing? What's going on inside of me? Am I really being a team member here or am I being a me member here? Trust. Collaboration needs trust, and unfortunately trust is often a perception thing. We can perceive certain things, and sometimes our own bias and habits and background might get in the way of trusting someone. So by being open and removing all those perceptions and judgments, we might be open to trusting each other more. Of course, that's a difficult one. It takes a whole team working this way. That's why I think about, in a team sense, we need to learn to drop those biases and learn to trust each other, and trust first rather than be suspicious first, which is unfortunately how we are. Communication, we just talked about the listening part. Focus, I've talked about that part too. Because when we're collaborating, we have to focus on what is the team needing, what are we doing, and stay on track, because there's nothing worse than you get to stand up and, oh, yesterday I did something that wasn't planned. It's like, well, why did you stay on focus, guys? So mindfulness enables us to stay focused on what the goal was. It also enables some clarity of roles, so we can be mindful and aware of what's really happening, who's doing what, in what way, and how we're supporting each other, and that real interrelationships of people. So that emotional intelligence component, that we are aware of what other people's needs are. So we bring awareness not into our own mind, but we can, by being more self-aware, we can be more aware of other people and stop seeing the world from just my point of view, which is binocular vision. We can see it more clearly and be more open and spacious. And of course, dealing with diversity, that doesn't need too much discussion, but when we're mindful, we can drop those bias of gender, culture, disabilities, LBQTI, all of that stuff, we can drop it, we can be mindful. Hang on, am I seeing this in the biosphere? Yeah.
So all of this sounds really good in an ideal world, but what do you do when you actually know that there are people who are probably there to just for their own sake? I mean, you know that they're not to be trusted. Then what do you do?
Of course. So, I mean, mindfulness is not silly, so the question was, what if we know that there's someone who can't be trusted because they have shown over and over again they can't be? Well, we need to just understand within ourselves that that's the way it is. Fact is fact. Mindfulness doesn't change facts. And we can't make somebody else mindful, by the way. The only person who can be mindful is you. And then encourage it. If you're a coach or a scrum master, encourage it in your teams. So those kinds of behaviours can't be swept under the carpet. Being mindful doesn't mean that you're a doormat and you can just be walked all over. So understanding that if someone is breaking your trust, you can be aware of that and say, well, how am I going to choose my wise response rather than reacting with negativity or anger or all of these things. I can choose my response to that lack of trust and approach it from a more sensible, considered point of view rather than attack. Because we all like to attack people. I mean, hey, we all see it. So we can say, hang on, how can I talk to him in a more gentle, open, spacious way to say, hey, do you realise your behaviour is X, Y and Z rather than the usual, oh, you're just blah, 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 blah. So we can actually choose that conversation and not be so subjective and aggressive, perhaps. Time is up. Holy moly, that went fast.
Just one question on that. So,
yep.
where you're talking about clear roles and responsibilities, right? So, sometimes the ecosystem is not like that, right? So, your organization doesn't define the metrics or the way of operation, right? And it land up to these problems, and then sometimes you have to enforce your idea also, because otherwise we cannot deliver the things, right?
Oh, absolutely. So
it cannot be like rosy all the time.
Oh, well, mindfulness actually does enable you to be rosy all the time, because what you're doing is recognising your anger and choosing not to react out of an angry position. So yes, we do get emotions, but mindfulness enables us to find those emotions and say, despite me not liking this, I'm not going to respond in that unwise way. But this is not about removing organisational problems. It's really about removing your own internal mind barriers to coping in these situations. But we must address these issues. It's not about saying, oh, we're living in a wonderland. No, we still need to address them, but when we're addressing them, we're addressing it from a mindful point of view rather than a reactive, emotional, hijacked point of view. We call it a hijack. So.
See, all of us work in a delivery pressure, right? So we have commitments and timelines in which we need to meet, because we are answerable to somebody who's paying the bill, right?
Of course.
And of course we want to work in a good environment, everybody is happy about it. But sometimes we have to enforce the things, sometimes we have to do
absolutely. But we don't do it we do it mindfully, that's all we're saying. We still have to do what we have to do. We still have to work in the world. That's nothing about not being mindful. With the way that we do that work from an open, spacious, generous, aware point of view, we still have to do that stuff.
So still a guidelines how to handle that situation in a graceful way, right?
That's not the subject of this talk.
Okay.
I will talk about it afterwards, but I'm out of
If you
time.
can take it offline, she would be there outside, so if we had
This is the last slide. I don't know if we're sharing slides, but feel free. This is all about the ways that you can implement actual mindful techniques in all the various typical Agile ways. How do you do that? And my number one advice, because I know I'm up, is start these sprint plans, stand-ups, demos, retros, whatever it is. Start with your team, like how I started today. Let's take 3 breaths all together, come and be present, remove that mind, come and clear the mind, be focused, breathe and start there. And if you can encourage it in teams, which is what I've done in my teams, encourage a group meditation every now and again. These things help make the team all be on the same page with mindfulness. So if all of us are encouraged to behave in this way, then the team itself becomes a mindful team, and it's a group mindfulness, and that's what I really wanted to address. But I've run out of time, so I'm sorry. Please keep the conversation going. I'm not going anywhere, so please come and find me. I'm happy and love to talk to you more. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great for us to have Kathy here. Like meditation has been in the blood of India, and it's good actually we have this session with you. So thank you. Thanks a lot. I can check one. Okay.